Jillian Michaels has the receipts, and she is finally breaking her silence about the Netflix docuseries called Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. And apparently, according to TMZ, Jillian Michaels may be filing a lawsuit against Netflix, the producer, Bob Harper. So let's get into it. The series called Fit for TV is covering all of the scandals and the behind-the-scenes drama of the insanely popular reality TV show called The Biggest Loser. Now, I don't know how many of you guys watched this show or even remember it, but it was one of the most popular reality TV shows in the early 2000s, which, remember, was sort of like the peak era for this type of reality TV. You had shows like Survivor and Big Brother and Jersey Shore, and these shows were raking in millions and millions of views, and it was a massive time for network television. There was one episode of The Biggest Loser that brought in more than 11 million viewers. Now, these are big numbers even today, by today's standards. So imagine in 2003, 2004, 2005, you've got a show of The Biggest Loser bringing in more than 11 million viewers. And the entire premise of the show is that you take these morbidly obese people, you make them work out 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. They're eating very minimal calories, and they are publicly weighed on a scale each week to see how much weight they've lost in the span of a week. And this goes on for, I think, about 6 months, something like that. And just to give you a bit of context, the season 1 winner, his name was Ryan. He was interviewed in this docuseries. He lost 122 pounds in about 6 months on the first season of The Biggest Loser. And the person who loses the most weight is the one who wins The Biggest Loser. And even more context, there was a guy named Danny. He was also interviewed for the docuseries. I believe he was in season 8. He lost a whopping 239 pounds in the span of 6 months. That's crazy, you guys. That's insane. So some of these people would weigh in after just 1 week, and they would lose 10, 12, 14 pounds in just 1 week. One of the producers said that he remembers the very first guy to ever weigh in on season 1. His name was Gary. And at this point, they weren't sure whether the show would be a hit or not. They needed it to be a hit. And the producer said he was terrified of what would happen when Gary got on the scale. He lost 12 pounds in 1 week. Now, to give you even more context, I find all this very fascinating. I've been a personal trainer for more than 10 years. I've been doing weight loss coaching for almost a decade now. And to kind of put things into perspective, my clients lose on average about 1 pound a week. Okay, and 2 pounds a week of loss is considered more rapid weight loss. So you have these people doing extreme things on this show to lose 10, 12, 14 pounds in 1 week. And they're doing this consistently for several months in a row. But as everyone is watching this 3-part series on Netflix, people online are wondering why Jillian Michaels is not there. She's not being interviewed. She has obviously declined to take part in this docuseries, which is strange because she is one of the 2 huge celebrity trainers that were on the show. It was her and Bob Harper. And Jillian Michaels' career really exploded because of The Biggest Loser. And the same with Bob Harper. You know, they were trainers in LA and they were training celebrities, but they were propelled to this sort of household name status because of The Biggest Loser. And a lot of other people involved in the show were interviewed. Bob Harper, the 2 producers, JD Roth and David Broom. So people are now asking, why wasn't she a part of this? Well, now it's starting to all kind of come together because Jillian Michaels just released some receipts on her Instagram, and she is showing exactly why she didn't want to be a part of this production. She's been showing email screenshots, text message screenshots to sort of clear her name because there were a lot of accusations made in this series against Jillian Michaels. For example, she was accused of secretly handing out caffeine stackers, drugs to contestants to make them lose weight faster. People said that she was just in it for the money. And so let's break down all of these receipts that she showed and exactly how they relate to the show. Right away in episode 1, the season 1 winner, Ryan, is remembering what the season finale was like. And he said he remembers the confetti going off, and they show the footage of him winning The Biggest Loser. And then it also shows the footage of Jillian Michaels coming in to hug Ryan as a congratulatory hug. Ryan said in the Netflix series Fit for TV, he said that Jillian said in his ear, "You just made me a millionaire." Now, this, of course, is a not so great thing to be revealed to have said. And then the camera cuts to Bob Harper and he says, "Well, sounds like Jillian." So there's already this claim here that Jillian does not care so much about these human beings. She just is in it for the money, and they see these obese people as nothing more than products that they can essentially sell on TV to get millions of views and make tons of money. Well, here is Jillian's response. She posts a text message screenshot, and in the caption of this Instagram post, she says, "In response to the claim in the documentary that I told a contestant at the show's finale, 'You're going to make me a millionaire,' I want to say unequivocally that this is false. The full moment was captured on camera, and both the contestant and I were wearing microphones. If such a comment had been made, it would exist on the audio record. Furthermore, two of the show's executive producers, Mark Coops and Dave Broom, have each provided written statements and text messages to my business partner confirming that this exchange never occurred. For clarity, below are their texts verifying that no such comment was ever made." And you see here the text screenshot. She circled that top text message. It says, "Co-creator and executive producer Dave Broom said, 'At no time did I ever hear any comment from Jillian about becoming a millionaire during the live finale.'" The person responded, who it seems like is Jillian's business partner, "Thank you so much." The next screenshot, another text message, says, "The show's executive producer, Mark Coops, added that both were wearing microphones at the time and no one is aware of any recording capturing such a moment. And just spoke to Broom, who says he remembers it differently and that Ryan thought he could parlay it into money." So you can tell by this text message screenshot and the caption that Jillian's not playing around. She's unhappy with the way that she's being portrayed. And I kind of I had an inkling as I was watching the show. I was watching it with one of my really good friends. She watched multiple seasons of The Biggest Loser, so she remembers a lot of this footage being captured. And she asked me, she's like, "Why didn't Jillian be a part of this?" And I just had a feeling that some things went wrong and she didn't want to be a part of this, maybe because she thought it was going to be some kind of hit piece. And I think it's important to talk about a little bit more of a broader context here. So Jillian Michaels in recent years has sort of gone off script. So at this point, we all know that when it comes to mainstream Hollywood, these A-list celebrities, they are expected to follow a certain script when it comes to what you support politically, culturally, and Jillian Michaels has sort of stepped out of that. She's been doing interviews with people like Piers Morgan and Candace Owens, and she's garnered a lot of attention and headlines because she said things where she's been against the vaccine mandate. She's talked about a lot how California politicians have really ruined many parts of the state, especially the major cities, with a lot of these ultra progressive policies that wreak havoc on the state, wreak havoc on the economy. She's come out really not in support of a lot of the things she's seen with the transgender movement, specifically how it applies to children. So she's spoken out a lot, and she's also said things like, I should be the sort of spokesperson for a lot of these progressive cultural movements because I'm gay, I'm married, I'm half Arab, I'm half Jewish. But Jillian has gone what some people would say off the reservation. So a lot of people now are wondering online whether this was intentionally, these claims were intentionally made against her to smear her name and smear her character. Whatever the case may be, Jillian Michaels is responding to a lot of these accusations. So there's another accusation in the show that Jillian was handing out caffeine stackers and drugs to contestants behind the backs of producers and the medical advisors because she wanted them to lose weight faster and she wanted to make money essentially at any cost. So a stacker refers to a type of over-the-counter medication, right? So we'll say it's a stimulant pill, rather. It's a supplement. And it's designed to suppress your appetite, boost your metabolism. It's used as a weight loss aid, an appetite suppressor, and a pre-workout stimulant. So the original formula of these stacker products is ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin. This is known as the ECA stack. These were really popular, around the time that The Biggest Loser first started being filmed. And Danny, the guy who lost 239 pounds in just 6 months, he said in the Netflix series that he was given caffeine stackers, and it was approved by the celebrity trainers. And this guy broke a record on The Biggest Loser. He lost double digits in pounds 7 weeks in a row on The Biggest Loser. So they all step on the scale, and there's this big to-do in front of everybody, in front of the studio audience and the cameras, the millions of viewers. And the scale does beep, 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 and we're going to wait and see how much weight they lost. Well, Danny lost 10 plus pounds each week for 7 weeks in a row. So another major player in this Netflix series is Dr. Huizinga. He's a medical doctor who is advising and approving things for contestants. And he said on Fit for TV he made a rule that there were no caffeine stackers to be administered to any of the contestants. He claimed no caffeine pills, not even any caffeine, not even any coffee. He wanted the contestants to be doing everything naturally, just through diet and exercise. And in the Netflix series, he was talking about how he had to sit down multiple times with the celebrity trainers and really kind of rein them in because he didn't want them to do things that were too extreme with the contestants, right? So now all of these things coming together, the story is that Jillian is this crazy lady who's yelling and screaming at everybody in the gym, and she's sneaking stackers to contestants, and she's made out to be the villain here. And they were showing all these clips of Jillian yelling in the faces of contestants. Bob Harper, too. There was this big to-do with Bob Harper getting into a fight with one of the contestants named Joelle because she wouldn't finish on the treadmill. And Jillian Michaels is doing the same thing. They're trying to make sensationalist TV. So she's screaming in the faces of contestants. She's saying things like, I don't care if you break your neck. You're going to finish this set. Who do you think you are? Do you really want to be here? You know, these trainers are yelling in their faces. And there was an author who was interviewed for the Netflix series who was very critical of Jillian. Well, she's critical of the entire series, The Biggest Loser. But she said Jillian was screaming at the contestants, and she made some sort of comment like it's because she didn't value them as human beings. These people suffering from obesity were not valued as human beings. Okay, that, again, pretty big accusation. And when I was watching this with my friend, she said she remembers after the workouts were over, Jillian was the one who would go to the contestants and say, see, I told you you could do it. You doubted yourself. And she would encourage them. And they even showed clips of this in Fit for TV. It seemed like to many people, Jillian actually did care about the contestants. And, you know, for what it's worth, when I was a full-time editor, a fitness editor, health and fitness editor for publications, I got to meet Jillian. And, you know, you get a sort of instinct with people. I always felt like she was genuine. You know, she's intense. She's an intense person, but she's the same off camera too, but she seems real. Like she seems like someone who actually cares about human beings. And so Jillian now has the receipts to prove that she's not some crazy lady trying to sneak drugs to the Biggest Loser contestants. In this screenshot of an email chain, Jillian writes in the caption, here's an email chain with Bob Harper, the Biggest Loser's producers, Dr. Huizinga's guy, Sandy Crum, who stayed on set with us and distributed the fat burners, about which fat burners and caffeine pills to purchase the contestants. This is one email of many that shows, number one, Dr. Huizinga did approve caffeine pills on many seasons of Biggest Loser. Two, Bob Harper not only knew about the caffeine pills, the Stackers Fat Burner were actually his suggestion. I wanted to use my brand instead because they were cleaner and had no more than 200 milligrams of caffeine, equivalent to a strong cup of coffee. Three, caffeine was never banned on The Biggest Loser. And then she concluded, wild how some folks still lie like it's 1985 before text and email were a thing. And the last image is my second to last text ever to Bob Harper. Take from it what you will. Let's add a little bit more context in here. So they cut to a scene of The Biggest Loser where Jillian admitted, she said, look, I think it's better to give a caffeine stacker to contestants rather than having them chug coffee all day long. And that was almost used as somewhat proof that she was giving them drugs behind the scenes, right? And then there was another part of the documentary where Bob Harper talked about the heart attack that he had many, many years later. I forgot exactly what year Bob Harper had a heart attack. Maybe it was 2017, 2018. Yes, in early 2017. That's when he had a heart attack at the gym. And in the Fit for TV series, he says that he was dead for 9 minutes. So he shared a lot of the experience that he had, where he was saying that the only person who did not contact him after he had his heart attack was Jillian Michaels. And he said this really goes to show what kind of person she is, right? And so this is almost like another accusation that Jillian is just this terrible person who doesn't care about anybody. She didn't reach out to Bob Harper when he had his heart attack when everyone else did. Everyone else wanted to see how he was. So in this email chain, you can see that this is to Jillian Michaels, CC Tob Lubin, and it's also to Mark Coops, who was one of the executive producers of The Biggest Loser. This is from Julianne Harris, the coordinating producer of NBC's The Biggest Loser, and she says, we just received the books and we'll be giving them out today. Sandy has the Electro Mix and Bicarb. Remember, Sandy is Dr. Huizinga's guy. So this is apparently the person who stayed on set and distributed the fat burners, and Sandy worked with Dr. Huizinga. So Julie continues, do you still want Stacker 2 or 3? I'll have it for them first thing in the morning. Thanks, Julie. Obviously, according to this email chain, Dr. Huizinga's team did approve the caffeine stack. And then Jillian shares another screenshot. The subject is contestant diets. And the text is, honey, can you go to GNC and Guy probably means buy my fat burner extreme instead? I can have it sent, but will take a while. Now, I don't know if this is from Bob Harper or from Jillian Michaels, but again, it shows that caffeine stackers, fat burners were used on the set. And then the very last screenshot is a text message to Bob from Jillian on 2014, June 15th. I really think it's shitty of you to not even respond to my texts. It's this kind of thing that always makes me so disappointed in our relationship. There you have it. I mean, you know, these screenshots are pretty telling. And I mean, we can kind of start with that last text message there. It's clear that Jillian and Bob had some kind of falling out. Who knows what happened? She obviously doesn't want to talk about it yet. I don't know if she's going to in the future, but it seemed like they were not on good terms at all. So this sort of cuts into this narrative that they were friends and Bob Harper had a heart attack and she didn't respond or even reach out to him. You know, when The Biggest Loser was airing in the first few seasons, a lot of people actually thought that Jillian and Bob were together because they hadn't come out. Neither of them had come out as gay yet. But people thought that they were like a thing. There was something going on because they were so friendly and they were just, you know, always joking around together. And they seemed to have this very cute relationship. But apparently they had a falling out. And then these other emails here, it's clear from these emails, and these emails have not been contested yet. There has not been anyone who has reached out publicly to say, hey, these are fake emails. These are taken out of context. Nobody has responded to this yet, which shows that, yes, caffeine stackers were approved by the producers and by Dr. Huizinga. And then there's one more thing that Jillian Michaels responds to. So there was a contestant named Rachel Fredrickson, and she had the most dramatic weight loss in The Biggest Loser, so much so that it drove Jillian to quit the show because it was so extreme and obviously unhealthy. So this is what she looked like. This was season 15, so we're well into the last few seasons here. She lost a lot of weight, and when she appeared in, well, there was the finale, yes, it was a finale of The Biggest Loser, there was a lot of shock. People were really surprised to see this type of transformation. This is the most extreme weight loss transformation I've ever seen in such a short amount of time. Jillian says, she's said many times before on podcasts and various interviews in the years following her quitting The Biggest Loser, she said this is when she realized that she was complicit in something that was very extreme and unhealthy, and she felt like she had to quit. There was a lot of talk that Jillian contributed to this dramatic weight loss, and so she decided to respond to it with more screenshots. In this screenshot here, we're going to go through, it's actually a video because she scrolls down in the email. She said in the caption, not only did I never once get the opportunity to personally work with Rachel Fredrickson in any capacity, I raised serious concerns both publicly and to NBC directly about contestant health and the condition of Rachel in particular at Biggest Loser's season 15 finale. In response, I received a direct email from Paul Telegdi, then chairman of NBC Entertainment. In that email, he made clear that if I did not publicly condone the appearance of contestant Rachel Fredrickson at the show's finale, NBC would pursue legal action against me. I resigned from The Biggest Loser shortly thereafter. You guys, this is a big claim. Okay, this is a really big claim. So let's go through this email chain. This guy, Paul, says, that's this weekend. Thanks this weekend about press emanating from various interviews. Okay, he says, Dolvid is extremely upset about how is being cast, and I think it's a little unfair. Everyone was taken aback by Rachel's physical appearance at the finale, but subsequently the story has gone away. And we asked them once again to double check the falsifies in place to ensure the contestants stay healthy. By the metrics in place, Rachel abided by the rules. The extremity of her appearance aside, she did nothing wrong. There were others who did incur cover penalty weights because they deviated from the medical plans? Please, could you stay clear of the subject insofar as is possible? But also consider the harm it causes the franchise and your relationships at this company when so much time is devoted to cleanup. Jill, we've had our ups and downs, understatement, but I've always tried extremely hard to remain in your fan club. My team has always worked to keep you happy and in the family. It's hard to contemplate a broader relationship with NBC or its parent company when all we've asked for is a collaborative approach to handling all press. The piece in the Des Moines Register seems to be causing a bit of a ruckus. You know, I've personally tried not to be a tyrant where these things are concerned. My talent family includes some pretty major stars and personalities, Jimmy Fallon, Adam Levine, Shakira, Howard Stern, to name but a few. We are able to navigate incredibly complex and diverse interests, including leveraging massive national campaigns with advertisers to managing unbelievably rigorous and difficult workloads. Bluntly, there just comes a point where if someone takes a paycheck from this company, whether it's an assistant or a piece of talent earning millions of dollars, we just expect some loyalty. Once again, someone's weekend is going to be spent drafting endless, pointless, time-wasting notes to Marty Singer to remind you of what are candidly elementary obligations under your contract. It would be great to enter a phase of your coexistence with Biggest Loser and indeed NBC Universal where we didn't feel like we had to watch you like a hostile employee. That sounds very threatening and very passive-aggressive. That's a nasty email to get from the chairman of NBC Entertainment. That's a nasty email to get. Out of all the screenshots that she shared, that was the most damning, in my opinion. He's basically threatening her. And then she shared a screenshot that you can't really see here because it's not sized correctly. But she's basically saying, I don't condone Rachel's weight loss or whatever. But imagine getting this email from the chairman of NBC. He's basically threatening you like, I've worked with all these stars. And if you want to have a coexistence with The Biggest Loser and NBC Universal, basically saying that if you don't condone this weight loss, you're never going to have any relationship with NBC Universal. You're never going to get on any of our shows ever again. And we're going to blacklist you because you don't support this extremely unhealthy weight loss that this woman had. Like, that's crazy. And Jillian even shares a couple other emails just proving that she was not trying to get the contestants to eat an insanely small amount of food. She was supporting them to still exercise, but eat the right amount of calories. And, you know, I have to say, all of these emails, they clear her name for everything that was said in this series. Now, of course, the things that they did in Biggest Loser, were they all right and moral? No, obviously not. And I do think that a lot of what they did, it had some lasting damage on these individuals. But, you know, it's not only what they did in the show. There's also in some cases, lasting damage with these individuals because they suffered from morbid obesity for so long. However, when you lose weight this rapidly, it's very, very unlikely that it's going to stay off. So if you see the guy Danny who lost over 200 pounds during the series, like he's essentially back to his starting weight, sadly. Because, I mean, research has shown, I tell this to my clients, my weight loss clients, research shows that the more gradually you lose the weight, the more likely it is to actually stay off. You know, they had crazy things happen during these series. During season 8, Tracy, she almost died. They were doing this mile-long run on the beach and it was really hot outside, and she ended up having rhabdomyolysis, which is essentially like a damaged muscle tissue that breaks down rapidly and then your organs start to shut down. And she said that she passed out, heard a helicopter, felt like she was floating, saw her grandpa, saw darkness and saw light, and she was like, I died that day. You know, you have these terrible things happening on set, and I think that everyone who was involved is obviously complicit. However, to try and make Jillian be like the ultimate scapegoat, to try to make her out to be the ultimate villain, there's something there that is definitely off. And she kept all the receipts and she cleared her name. So let me know what you guys think. I don't know. Let me know if you watched Fit for TV or maybe even watched The Biggest Loser. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And let me know if there's another topic that you want me to cover in the next one. And we'll see you next time. Bye.